Hello, folks. Welcome to Moment of Clarity. Welcome to the most censored comedian in America. My name is Lee Camp. Thank you for being here. I started a minute early because you deserve it, God damn it. That's how much I like you guys. Let's see. Damn it. The Rumble stream is not working at the moment. All right. Well, then I guess, I guess I'll just have to upload this to Rumble later, which means I will not be cutting this stream off early and heading over to Rumble. So going forward, real quick, I will be doing the first part of the stream on YouTube, Facebook, and Rumble, and then after 15 minutes, going over to just rumble.com/Lee Camp. I hope you join me over there. However, this stream, I won't be doing that because something has gone wrong with the Rumble stream, but I will fix that for the next one. Anyway, let's get into it. I've got 2 or 3 stories for you today. 2 of them have to do with me, which I don't really like having stories that have to do with me. It wasn't really my plan, but recently with all the censorship that's been going on, I've found myself at the center of more stories than I thought I would be. This one is the latest attack against me by our beloved dumpster fire of an outlet, the Daily Beast, which I think you could still consider part of the mainstream media in many ways, because it feeds into the mainstream media. They're agreeing with the same narrative. They're the same U.S. empire garbage. And here's something you should know about the Daily Beast before we get into this article. Who is it that sits on the board of the Daily Beast that loves to come after me and others who actually speak out against empire, speak out against our endless wars? Well, let me show you. Daily Beast is owned by a company called IAC. And here is the director that sits on the board of IAC. Your friend and mine, Chelsea Clinton. So that tells you a lot of what you need to know about the Daily Beast. This is a company that supports war criminals, has the daughter of war criminals on their board, part of the Clinton machine. Anyway, they did a lovely article, and I showed the image the other day, but I felt I needed to do a longer segment to debunk some of the dumpster fire that they put forward in this article. So I figured, why not? But first, let me show you just the image. This is the image that goes with this dumpster fire of an article. Meet the sneakiest defenders of Putin's invasion of Ukraine. And then you've got me and Max Blumenthal, Samira Khan, Jingjing Li from CGTN, Danny Hafong, who's written previously for Black Agenda Report, and Ben Norton. Max and Ben, both from Gray Zone, but Ben Norton now has his own outlet, excellent outlet called Multiple Aristas. Anyway, apparently we are puppets of Putin, and you can see Putin's eyes are over top of us because apparently he oversees everything we're saying, which is odd because I've said again and again and again and again that I'm opposed to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And I call it the Russian invasion of Ukraine. I don't call it the unusual military conflict or whatever some Russian media has called it, special military incursion or whatever. So apparently Putin is overseeing me as I say the opposite of what Putin wants me to say. Because Putin would not want you to say you're opposed to the invasion of Ukraine. But despite the fact that I have said in every interview and everything I've done that I'm opposed to the invasion of Ukraine, even in some of the tweets he's showing, you can see that I'm saying that I think this is one of mine, although he doesn't attribute it here. But if you're truly against the war in Ukraine, you must also be against the U.S. and NATO. Is there anything crazy about that? But anyway, I've said again and again that I'm opposed to the invasion of Ukraine. So even the motherfucker's title is a lie. This asshole can't get past the title without lying, manipulating, putting forth bullshit. I am not a defender of Putin's invasion of Ukraine. In fact, what I want is for people to understand the context, understand the world in which we live, understand that this is a proxy war going on in Ukraine between Russia and the US. That's what I want people to understand. And as I'll get into in a minute, I'm not the only one saying it's a proxy war. So is Joe Biden, who accidentally riffed at the end of his speech that they needed to remove Putin from power, which means if that's your aim in Ukraine is to remove Putin from power, then it's a proxy war. Your goal is to remove the Russian president from power by fighting in Ukraine, by sending missiles and arms to Ukraine. Therefore, proxy war. Furthermore, the Secretary of Defense agrees with me, but I'll get into that in a second. So let's try and get into a little of this sad, pathetic, fucking puppet of a shill of a with a media company that has a war criminal's daughter on the board as the director. Let's get into some of what he says in this article. Oh, and I also love sneakiest defenders. Yes, I am incredibly sneaky. I think he added sneaky because I literally say I'm opposed to the invasion of Ukraine, which makes me a sneaky defender of the war in Ukraine. What? Right. Got that? So I'll just call this sad basement dweller Matthew, because I don't want to give his full name, because I don't want to give him any more promotion than he needs. So this sad little basement dweller is apparently very upset that there dare be anyone out there that is truly anti-war. And I don't mean the kind of anti-war you get on CNN and MSNBC, et cetera, et cetera. That kind of anti-war is not actually anti-war, right? Because they support the U.S. invasion across the board. They do fawning episodes supporting U.S. invasion of Iraq or Afghanistan, or the surge in Iraq. They do fawning support of the destruction of Libya, for example. Or they lie by omission by simply never mentioning Yemen. I mean, for years, we were helping destroy Yemen before MSNBC ever had a segment on it. And of course, even when they had a segment, they said, well, it's pretty complicated. You know, we're trying to help the people of Yemen via bomb. We're trying to bomb food into their faces. That we're hoping that they can somehow end their famine if we drop bombs on them. So I mean, that's what you're getting out of your mainstream media. That's not anti-war. That is support of a lot of wars, and then opposed to certain wars that the U.S. uses to sanction other countries. So this is how this sad, pathetic article begins. Misinformation is a profitable racket. Just ask Lee Camp. And he then goes into my Patreon. And he says, my Patreon has a lot of subscribers, therefore I'm making a lot of money. So this is a profitable racket for me. All right. First of all, not misinformation, literal information. So not misinformation. Secondly, the Patreon, and now I'm switching to locals. You can see in the corner of the screen, if you're a supporter on Patreon, please move your support over to leecamp.locals.com, because Patreon will delete journalists, which is his real goal. I'll get into this also later. His real goal in this article is to try and get those of us speaking the truth, those of us speaking out against endless war, those of us speaking out against these fucking war criminals that are morally bankrupt. He wants those of us that speak out against it, meaning me, Ben Norton, Danny Haifong, etc. He wants us to lose any ability to actually have a living, make a living doing this in any way. That's his goal. So he has hit up these platforms. He actually says it in the article. He has pestered Patreon, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, trying to get them to delete us. So this fucking sad sack of shit, who probably calls himself a liberal, has gone to these platforms to try and get us censored. And it's hilarious because, he talks about my Facebook. I'm already censored on Facebook. I've been shadow banned on Facebook for fucking 5 years now. So I love that he's like, Facebook hasn't banned Lee Camp, even though no one sees his posts anyway. This, if I could sum up this article, it's but anyway. So that's his real goal in this article, honestly. He doesn't, I imagine he and the Daily Beast don't actually care that much if people read this. I mean, I don't think many people did. His tweet of this article got, most of his tweets had literally 0 retweets. I mean, I don't think I've actually seen anything do that poorly almost ever. So pretty incredible. But that aside, his real goal was to pester these platforms to try and get us deleted, which is why I'm switching from Patreon to Locals, which doesn't delete people. So he's talking about the amount of money made on Patreon, but he doesn't mention that, as I've said, first of all, I've only been on Patreon 2 months. So yeah, raking in the cash, been there 2 months. But secondly, he doesn't mention that the Patreon is to create a new show. So it's not just for me. It's going to pay things like editors and camera people and the various people you need to put together a show. Also, he, of course, doesn't mention that, as many of you know, I, for 2 years now, I think, have been doing a live stream. We haven't been able to do it recently because all this shit has gone down. But I've been doing a live stream with Eleanor Goldfield where we donate all of the Super Chat donations. Everything that comes in is donated back to people who need help. And I don't know anyone else who's done that, but the grand total that's been donated to those of us who've emailed for help is, and sometimes they'd be in the comment threads and they'd be talking about how they got the help, how useful it was, etc. The total is, I think, near $20,000. So a lot of money has gone back to people who need help rather than taking the Super Chat money and just keeping it myself. Also, of course, he doesn't mention and didn't know and didn't care to ask that I have also turned down for years now, turned down every offer to have advertising on my Facebook and my Instagram and do spoken ads on things. I've turned down all of this corporate influence because A, I don't want any fucking corporate influence, but B, more importantly, is I don't feel right about taking a Facebook page that was built on people that cared about the truth and saying, hey, now that I have you here, let me tell you how great Nestle is. Let me tell you how great the child labor Nestle is using is, and Nike. And let me tell you how awesome these brands are, which is what they wanted me to do. And I would get emails, sometimes 2 to 3 a week, saying, we'll give you, sometimes $500 up to $5,000 for ads on your Facebook page. Some of them would say, we'll give you $1,000 or $2,000 per ad, like one ad on my Facebook. And I turned it all down because I felt that's wrong. And that isn't what I want to have with you. It's not what I want to be about. And anyway, so God knows if I had accepted all those, God knows how much money that is. But I've turned all of that down. And so this guy's like, let me tell you about how Lee is a money grifter. And he's by being anti-war and by being opposed to American imperialism that is crushing our globe, he's a grifter, right? Let me tell you how I'm licking the boots of Chelsea Clinton and trying to scrape. Really, what this guy's upset about is that he's not making any money because God knows what Daily Beast pays for this sad little man who has like very few articles, even to his credit, anywhere. So I'm assuming this guy can't make a living because he writes, because he's bootlicking like everybody else out there, and he's upset about that. So he's like, well, if I could just stop these anti-war activists, these people who are truly anti-war, unlike me, basement dweller dude, unlike me, I who supports American destruction of just so many lives. I mean, 6. I know I say this number a lot, but I feel like this is like a key number. And I'll keep doing segments on this. 6 million people killed by our war on terror over the past 20 years. 5 million indirectly, 1 million directly, 6 million people. This guy supported all of that. Because you can look, you can go. I can guarantee you, he has no articles about how many people America is killing with and that doesn't even count. That war on terror doesn't even count our sanctions on all these countries like Venezuela and Iran and Syria. Like, I honestly, 6 million is a low estimate. Anyway, this sad little sack of shit is upset that there's anyone out there who's actually anti-war. So, but by the way, so I want to go back because I'm afraid I'll forget it otherwise. I mentioned how he's saying I'm a defender of Putin's war, even though I'm not. I've said I'm opposed to this war. But it is a proxy war. I mean, if you just look at what's going on, the U.S. is sending arms to Ukraine. We are fighting Russia we are fighting Russia to the last Ukrainian. Many people have been using that term. Many people understand that. And the Secretary of Defense has admitted this is a proxy war. I don't think he really meant to, but let's see here. I'll show you. I'll show you the quote from the Secretary of Defense admitting this is a proxy war, that we are fighting in Ukraine to harm Russia, not to try and save Ukraine, which, by the way, how often do you see Biden or them talk about that we need peace talks immediately, that we need to stop firing and stop sending weapons to Ukraine and instead sit down at a fucking table and end this thing? You don't hear them say that because they don't want that. They want to fight Russia to the last Ukrainian. So here is the Secretary of Defense. You'll never find a bigger warmonger. He was on the board of Raytheon, all right? You'll never find a bigger warmonger than this motherfucker. Leads the Pentagon, Secretary of Defense, former board of Raytheon. Here's what he has to say about it. U.S. Secretary of Defense admits the real strategic goal in Ukraine, a quagmire for Russia, which means, by definition, it's a proxy war. The strategic goal of, quote, weakening Russia is playing with fire, even nuclear fire. And to allow the war to go on indefinitely or to escalate at the expense of the Ukrainian people is cruel, dangerous, and unacceptable. This is from Common Dreams, and these quotes are coming from the Secretary of Defense. So he was asked what American goals are in Ukraine, and one of the things he said was, we want to see Russia weakened. We want to see Russia weakened. By definition, this makes it a proxy war. You're not trying to just end the war. You're not trying to sit down at a peace table and end this fucking thing. You're not trying to just get Russia out of there. You want to keep fighting going so you weaken Russia. Now, I have no problem with Russia being weaker. I'm not here to defend any military. But by making that your goal, by sending arms to Ukraine in order to weaken Russia, you're making this a proxy war. The fucking Secretary of Defense has admitted it. So, this Daily Beast, a puppet, sad bootlicker, is apparently opposed to the Secretary of Defense. He disagrees with the Secretary of Defense, apparently, while blaming me for spreading misinformation. This is the guy with the unhinged conspiracy theory. I'll show you all you need to see to know this is an unhinged conspiracy theory. This photo. Does anyone see this photo that they've created and not think, pretty unhinged conspiracy theorist? I mean, to take, what do we got here? 2, 4, 6 people that are completely unconnected to each other. It's not like we write anybody's segments. We share ideas. Other than interviewing each other on various shows at times, we don't work with each other at all. And yet, this guy's saying this is some sort of cadre of people I mean, that's what that's a definition of unhinged conspiracy theory. All right. Anyway, where was I? So, okay, he tried to attack my Patreon, and he says misinformation is a profitable racket, blah, blah, blah. So then he says a strong reward for a self-styled leftist, anti-war, anti-imperialist. Self-styled seems like kind of some kind of insult. I guess it sounds like I'm making it up or something. Like I'm not actually anti-war, not actually anti-imperialist. But I mean, that's just what I am. So I don't know. I don't know what self-styled is supposed to mean there. But what it's meant to do, it's meant to give people the idea that I'm making this out, that I'm pretending. He's styled himself as opposed to just he is, as opposed to just an anti-war, anti-imperialist, which is what I am. And it's what you should be if you had any, and I don't just mean him, I mean anybody out there. If you have any moral backbone, if you have any moral core, any moral compass, one number, 6 million people killed by the U.S. empire, war on terror over the past 20 years. That's all you need to know. That's all you need to know. And you should stand with me on all of these, at least geopolitical, global foreign policy issues. You should have the same opinion. So anyway, let's keep going here. And by the way, I'm not going through this whole article because I think that would drive everyone insane. But so he says, it's still talking about me. He's seen fit to deny repression and atrocities. And I was like, what the fuck? And then I was like, oh, he means that I deny the fake ones. He means, so then if you click on the links he gives, what is it? One, hold on, I have to remember. One is me talking about how literally when they say there's a Uyghur genocide, even the people that claim that don't claim it's a genocide. Like even the people that claim it's a Uyghur genocide in China actually claim it's a cultural genocide. They mean that China is taking away the culture of the Uyghurs, which to me, being an anti-imperialist Jew like myself, Jewish by birth, atheist by choice, I take the word genocide pretty seriously, and I think everyone should. You don't have to be Jewish by birth to take the word genocide seriously. And when you start diluting it, like, oh well, they didn't actually kill them; they just took away their books. And I'm not saying I don't know whether China done that or not. I'm just giving an example. But they didn't actually kill them; they just took away certain books they liked. Well, that doesn't sound like a genocide anymore, does it? It dilutes the term. It makes the word genocide mean less and less until people can recreate genocides because everybody doesn't even understand the term anymore. So to me, when people use the term, change the term cultural genocide and make it genocide, they're actually harming the ability to talk about real genocides. And I don't mind, listen, people can be furious if cultures or countries are destroying someone else's culture. Absolutely, they should. Calling it genocide is fucking dumb. It should be called other horrible terms because it is bad. It is upsetting. But if you're acting like the word genocide needs to mean killing people for who they are, then let's keep it meaning that. So anyway, that's what. So he considers me talking about that and talking about how there's not actually a genocide in China. If you look at all of the evidence, the actual think tanks that put forward the studies saying there's a Uyghur genocide, it's all weapons contractors and a bizarre. All of them quote a guy named Adrian Zenz, who's a German evangelical who literally believes, he said, quote, that the Jews will burn in a fiery furnace after this life. So he's supporting burning Jews to death. So he supports genocide, and he said it's his Lord's work or whatever, or the Lord's work through him to stop communist China. This is the guy they're going to for telling them that there's bad shit going on with Uyghurs. Now, I'm not saying there's. I don't look. I've never been to China. I'm not saying there's not racism against Uyghurs. I'm sure there is. I mean, I'm not sure there is, but I imagine there is. But there's immense racism against Black people in America. We live in a systemic racist culture. And I mean, you're 50% less likely, studies have shown, to get the first job interview if you just have a Black sounding name. That's how racist our system is. But I don't call that a genocide. I call it wrong in so many ways. I call it racist, but I don't call it a genocide. And that's what they want to do. So anyway, that's what he considers me denying atrocities. Basically speaking the truth. If you're honest and you speak the truth, you're apparently denying atrocities, according to this loon, who, if he works for the Daily Beast, if he works, here's, oops, sorry, wrong one. There's someone saying Uyghur language is written on the official Chinese currency. It's also on road signs. Also, you can see Uyghur mosques around. So I would imagine if they're fully destroying the culture, they wouldn't have the mosques around for them. But anyway. Yes, I have switched from Patreon to Locals. The address is in the corner of the screen, leecamp.locals.com. Please support me there. The reason I switched is because Patreon is deleting people and they could delete me tomorrow. And honestly, that's the goal of this article. This article is trying to get those of us who are anti-war to be deleted by Patreon. Anyway, let's keep going here. I was going to say that this clown, this pathetic clown who wrote this article, he's a denier of atrocities simply by the fact that, do you think he ever writes an article about the treatment of Native Americans that continues in this country? Do you think he ever writes articles about the atrocities done against the Iraqis, against the Afghan people, against people in Yemen, against people in Libya? Do you think he ever writes articles about this? No, not a concern, apparently. Which, to me, that's denying atrocities, because that's a choice to not write those articles. Now, the reason he's not writing those articles, I mean, it could be because clearly he's morally bankrupt, has no moral center. But beyond that, he's trying to impress people like Chelsea Clinton. Those are his bosses. So what does he do to impress them? He comes to them and he says, hey, look, I can do articles that will harm the income, harm the ability to make a living of anti-war voices. And they go, hey, absolutely, good job, buddy. Hey, a little high five, little pat on the tuchus for you there, sir. Good job, little fella. And then they send him off. And he's hoping that these articles are successful enough that he can eventually get a job on MSNBC doing war criminal propaganda there. So that's his goal, I would imagine, to work his way up like that. Anyway, let's keep going here, so I don't end up making this a 9-hour live stream. Camp has a large following. He then talks about my Facebook, my Twitter, not mentioning that I'm shadow banned on Facebook, because his goal again is to, he admits in the article that he has pressured Facebook and Twitter to basically censor us more. He contacted them and said, why haven't you censored these people who are anti-war, anti-imperialist? You know, how dare you let there be people on your platform who continue to call out Western and U.S. propaganda? How dare you allow that? The U.S. empire needs to crush everyone who speaks out against their propaganda. And so he's called them and tried to get them to do that, and got responses from Twitter and Patreon. And who knows whether they're still considering it. Maybe they are. Maybe tomorrow we'll find out that, Ben Norton has been deleted by Patreon or Twitter or something. And then he goes on to straight up lie. He says one of his retweets hinted, well, I love this. So he says one of his retweets, meaning my retweets, hinted at the biolabs conspiracy in Ukraine, which is what he says. Now, I haven't studied the biolabs thing extensively. I know that there are biolabs there, but he then says that it's a notion that says the U.S. is involved in producing biological weapons in Ukraine. I actually said that, well, yeah, it could be that, but it also could be that the U.S. is just doing biological testing. They're not necessarily doing biological weapons testing in Ukraine. But so I've said maybe it's not that. Anyway, he clearly couldn't. I think he wanted to find that. And when he couldn't find something like that, he said, I retweeted something that hinted at. I mean, if that's your proof against me, that I retweeted something that hinted at something else, that is a justifiable question. You're really talking about grasping at straws, Jesus. But then he also says another of his retweets intimated his job loss was connected to the Great Reset, which is not true. I never said that. I never hinted it. I in terms of the Great Reset, and I've talked a little about it. It's done by it's being put forward by Klaus Schwab and the Davos, World Economic Forum, their ideas of changing things. But here's the thing: it's like I don't think they need a Great Reset. I think they already own the shit. I want to do a video about this. It's like you've got almost the entirety of Western culture in wage slave jobs, voting in elections that largely matter not at all, for politicians that largely have zero impact. I mean, how much gets done in Congress right now? So you don't need a Great Reset. Everybody, most of our culture is wage slaves their entire lives to feed the corporate beast. What reset do you need? So anyway, that's a bit of my view. I want to go more into it. I'm not saying it's not a problem to have the World Economic Forum with these incredibly rich billionaires getting together and saying, hey, let's get rid of democracy. But there's no democracy. Like what? There's not, what? There's no democracy left. You don't need a reset. Anyway, it kind of reminds me of when people would, like Alex Jones was big into he said everything was happening at Bilderberg. They were always like, the Bilderberg meetings, the billionaires got together at Bilderberg. And I'm like, dude, they have Skype. They have Zoom. They don't have to get together. It doesn't really matter. They were like, they got together. They sat in a room together. It's like, remember what George Carlin said? These motherfuckers already know what each other want. They don't have, they want greed, they want profit, they want to rig things so that we have no say. They've been doing it for 100 years. They got together in a room thing dates back to when the Freemasons, literally there wasn't even phones. Or the phones were you're lucky if you get 3 sentences out fuzzy before it cut off. That there were no computers, there were no nothing. So they had to get together to actually talk to each other. But nowadays, I'm pretty sure the World Economic Forum participants have email. What? How much can you yell that they had a meeting and together? It always blew my mind. People are like, there was a summit where they said things on camera for us to see. It's like, don't you think a lot worse shit is going on behind the closed doors? Don't you think that's where the real shit goes on, not the fucking videos they're putting out? I don't know. Drives me nuts. So this guy, who is a true conspiracy theorist because he thinks there's some kind of conspiracy between me, Ben Norton, and Max Blumenthal. Okay, so he then says something completely false, that I said my job loss had to do with the Great Reset. No, I didn't. I've said my job loss had to do with U.S. sanctions, which it almost certainly did. U.S. sanctions caused the shutdown of RT America. I don't think there's really a argument against that. But Then I argued that the deletion of 8 years of my work, all of my Redacted Tonight videos by YouTube, has to do with corporate America, has to do with the US government and YouTube and Google, which owns YouTube, somehow saying, ban that shit, delete that shit. I never said anything about the Great Reset. So now he's just making shit up. And actually, he uses these hyperlinks to make you think he's got proof for all this stuff. So he'll say, he said that that his job loss was due to Great Reset, and then he'll hyperlink Great Reset. And so you click the hyperlink thinking, oh, he's going to show Lee Camp's tweet that shows that he said this. But no, the hyperlink just goes to some article explaining the Great Reset theory. So it doesn't actually show that I did what he said. But that's the thing, is people read these things and they just see that it's hyperlinked and they go, oh, must be true. It's got a hyperlink. There's an underline. It's got to be real. It's got an underline there. Listen, I thought this guy was full of shit, but then I noticed this word's got an underline and can't argue with that. No, you can't. By the way, when he does hyperlink to something justifying what he's saying, actually justifying what he's saying in this attack piece on me and others, when he does hyperlink to it, it's almost always to New York Times, Snopes, just total dumpster fire mainstream media outlets. So to him, that's proof, right? To him, I'm going to link. I'm being him now. Maybe I should do a voice. I'm going to link to the stuff that need to get. That's my impersonation of him. To him, linking to the New York Times, which has, we all know, this is inarguable, right? I don't think anyone watching this, even people that might be watching this who hate me, I don't think they'd argue with this. The New York Times has done provably fake coverage of the invasion of Iraq, right? WMD in Iraq. We all know this now. Like months and months of fake coverage. The anthrax attacks, fake coverage. The yellow cake uranium shit, fake coverage. We all know. This has been outed now. Decades of ignoring or endorsing U.S.-backed coups in a long list of countries. I won't even begin to list them now. I did a video a few weeks ago where I listed a lot of them. So we know this is a provably false U.S. empire ass-licking outlet. Like, you can't deny that. That is the New York Times job, as is Daily Beast. And he links to that to say, here's proof the New York Times said it. So these people, if you want a conspiracy, these people have this like spider web of like, look, I'm proving to you that this anti-war guy is endorsing war because I'm linking to New York Times. So it's like they go to fellow war hawk empire ass lickers and say, there's the proof. And you're like, that's what you got? You got a New York Times article that proves it somehow? Anyway. And he also links to Snopes, which Snopes maybe at the beginning had some truth in there. So they're known for debunking online myths, but they're now just provably kind of Western media bullshit. And I thought I'd show you this article. Oh wait, no, I don't have a link to it, so I won't bother with it. But the co-founder of Snopes a year ago, it turns out, wrote dozens and dozens of plagiarized articles for the fact-checking site. So you've got the guy who runs Snopes is just a known plagiarist, which shows you kind of where his moral center, ethical center is, right? And you've got the fact that Snopes just always goes along with the U.S. propaganda line, which is why, and this is in the Wikipedia just definition of or whatever article about Snopes, they've been included in reporting by CNN, MSNBC, Fortune, Forbes, and the New York Times. Well, what does that tell you about Snopes? That tells you they're doing the U.S. empire's bidding. That's why they're accepted by all of those outlets. If you're doing what I do, which is call into account our fucking endless wars and our endless destruction of the planet, then you aren't featured on those networks, or you're featured once and they never invite you back. That's how that works. By the way, I'll be showing you a clip of the one time I was featured on Fox News here in the next story. Thank you so much, Kanan. Really awesome of you to support me. I do hope that everyone will become a member, though, at leecamp.locals.com. That's where I'm moving, because Patreon could delete me any day. And the goal of this Daily Beast article is to get my Patreon deleted. So, all right, let me get to his larger conspiracy theory. Basement dweller, mouth breather, liberal here. In left-wing, this is a quote from the Daily Beast article. In left-wing circles, there's a group derisively referred to as tankies. This patois refers to a minority who support authoritarianism, defend dictators, and deny human rights abuses. Okay, I defend no dictators. I've never defended a dictator. I'm opposed to dictators. I'm opposed to human rights abuses. I'm opposed to authoritarianism. But that doesn't really fit in this guy's conspiracy theory. So he has to pretend that all of us are part of this one team and we work together to defend dictators. When in fact, this guy, thanks, Linda. Awesome of you. When in fact, this guy is the one really defending dictators, right? Because the U.S. empire supports, gives aid, sends aid to 70% of the world's dictators. Let's see if I can pull that article up right now. We help the world's dictators as long as they agree with us and do our bidding. Okay, so this article is from Truth Out. U.S. provides military assistance to 73% of the world's dictatorships. There you go, from Truth Out. Fairly mainstream outlet. And I guarantee you that 73%, whatever countries those are, I mean, we know some of them, Saudi Arabia, essentially a dictator. And there's countries that aren't even on that list of dictators that are still war criminals, like Israel, the amount of billions of dollars that we send to Israel. And so this journalist, well, I really shouldn't call him a journalist, this sad piece of shit, this clown, he supports those dictatorships by never reporting anything negative about them. So that's his way of supporting dictators. He's the real one supporting dictators. But he claims that I am, and that the others that he's focusing on in this article are. So, I mean, this guy is the definition of a vulture, right? He is a true vulture. But so something I haven't mentioned is that he spent weeks trying to contact me, sending me, and I know how the mainstream media works, so I didn't respond. He contacted my Instagram and my Facebook and emailed me on my various email accounts, et cetera, which all of that, fine, sleazy journalist. And I don't respond because I know what this is going to be. If you're working for the Daily Beast, if you're working for Chelsea Clinton's outlet, do you think they're going to write a good article? So I don't respond. He then somehow gets my phone number and starts texting and calling me, none of which I answer. But what kind of a shitbag do you have to be to become like a paparazzi, searching someone's private phone number and harassing them? So he eventually emails me without me responding. He eventually emails me the questions he wants to ask me, which are all fucking hilarious questions. It's like, you support genocide. Why do you do that? Why do you support genocides? And it was like, you work with other people who defend dictators and like killing people. Why do you like killing people? Like, honestly, those were the questions. It was fucking nuts. So I don't respond to that. Eventually, someone tells me that the best thing to do is to tell them that what they're saying is false. And so I sent one sentence that was, these questions are statements posing as questions, which are demonstrably false and defamatory. And I just sent that back to him and didn't respond otherwise. However, the only one who seems to have given a full-throated response was Danny Haifong. Danny Haifong, great journalist, has worked with Black Agenda Report, as I mentioned. Black Agenda Report, great outlet. You can see it a lot on radindymedia.com. But so Danny Haifong, bless his heart, Danny is a little less cynical about these shitbag mainstream outlets than I am. Danny, and you can go read his article. I don't think I could find it quickly or I'd pull it up, but look up Danny Haifong on Twitter and you can read his response. He sent back to the guy clear, long responses to each of these questions. Why do you want to kill people? Why do you love dictators so much? And so Danny responded with like intelligent and clear responses, thinking, I guess, that the guy would, if he got responses, would publish them, which, no. So the guy in the article puts one of Danny's responses, I think it's like 2 sentences from Danny, and ignores all of his other responses. And I knew that this is what these people do. I knew it when the New York Times did a hit piece on me. They'll either not use any of your responses, maybe not even do the article, but chances are just not use any of your responses. Or they'll use your response if they can find a half a sentence that somehow out of context helps their take. Like if you were to say, I don't remember that tweet, they might include that part because then they'd be like, well, the tweet's right here, look. And he said he doesn't remember it. So in some ways, they might find a half a sentence that like supports their garbage when taken out of context, and they'll put that in there. And so I knew this going in. You cannot, there's no way. And look, I understand this is not your field for most of you watching. You aren't journalists. You aren't putting up public videos like this. And so you don't get harassed by these people. But I've learned over a few attack pieces, the NPR attack piece as well on me, and the Washington Post one, that there's no winning, because they're either going to take some little segment where they got a half a sentence, or they're not going to use your responses. And so to Danny, they just didn't use just about everything he said. All right, let's keep going here. So he then says, thank you, Marcus. That's awesome of you. But for those of you who aren't able to, donate the $20 like Marcus just did, very cool of him. But for those of you who aren't able to, please just go over to leecamp.locals.com. It's right there in the corner of the screen. I always point to the wrong side. So just imagine my where I'm pointing going out of the screen and around back through to the other side and pointing that way. leecamp.locals.com. And first of all, a lot of the stuff that's there you can see for free. You don't even have to join. You just can go look at it. Some of it is for patrons only. But you can actually join the patron only side for free if you want to test it out first. If you don't trust me, you don't trust it's going to be good and cool. You can go over there and use the promo code Keep Fighting, all caps. So KEEPFIGHTING, one word. I know it's 2 words, but one word, all caps, Keep Fighting. Use that promo code, and that will get you a free month at leecamp.locals.com. So go over there, because it's not just like Patreon where I just post my stuff. It's interactive. It's community. We can chat with each other. I'm asking people questions over there, like, what do you want to see me cover on the show here? So please go over there and become a member. Anyway, to keep going here, he goes, my observations indicate that many subscribe to an ideology known as campism. And he then says, not to be confused with Lee Camp, which, listen, I may be ignorant. Maybe I'm not studying the right things. I've literally never heard of campism, and I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. But it seems to me like this just goes with his conspiracy theory. He's already termed us. So he's already come up with 2 terms, apparently, that fit what we all are, as if we're in one camp. This is part of why he likes that term. As if we're in one camp. We're one group, and we work together. me and Max Blumenthal and Danny Haiphong and Ben Norton, we're all in some room somewhere getting together, like the Bilderberg Group or the Great Reset or the World Economic Forum. We all get together in a room and we decide what our topics are. And Putin's eyes are behind us, right? Where's that image? Putin's eyes are overlooking the whole meeting, just like this. They're right there. Putin, look at us, and that's where you got together, and they get together, and we're all in one camp until they agree on anti-war talking points. So he then says, this idea sees the world divided into competing factions. Hence, they're often well-justified criticisms of the United States. Oh, they're often well-justified. You notice I sneaks that in there? They're often well-justified criticisms of the United States. Well, why don't you write an article about that? You fucking sack of shit vulture. Write an article about all my well-justified criticisms of the United States. Because I'd love that. If you wrote 5 articles about my well-justified criticism of the United States, and then one about how, oh yeah, I also think he's defending this war in Ukraine. That would be one thing. But for some reason, you don't seem to spend a lot of time on my well-justified criticisms of the United States, do you? Do you? All right. So campism, apparently. So he then goes on to talk about Samira Khan. She used to be at RT America, but I haven't spoken to her in years. I'm not sure what she's up to. He claims she's posting Kremlin support, but again, like, whether I know what she's doing or not, or whether she's even doing what, I mean, I know she tweeted out that this article is libelous. So clearly she believes he's lying about her. Very well, maybe true considering how many lies are in this thing. But what this does is it's guilt by association, even if he's lying about these other people. So he could tell a lie about Ben Norton or something, but he's saying, oh, they're all in the same camp. They're all together. They all agree with each other. When, no. I don't know everything. Even people I'm friends with, like Ben Norton, I don't know everything he tweets. How could I possibly agree with that? He doesn't know everything I tweet. You know, I tweeted what was it? It was a 24-hour, 1 tweet per minute series of dick pics that I did last week, and I don't think Ben Norton agreed with that. I don't think he was down with that. I don't recall him endorsing that. So yeah. He for all I know, he was opposed to my dick pic-a-thon. So he then says, quote, while Camp and Khan, Samir Khan, are vets of RT, others are mirroring Kremlin propaganda and their practice in the skill. Now, this gives you the impression that because I worked at RT, I was doing Kremlin propaganda. But what he doesn't want to say, because it doesn't fit his little conspiracy, is that I've said again and again, I was never censored at RT. I was never told what to say. I was never told not what to say. I was never changed from my views. I've had the same views since before I was at RT. I wrote all my own stuff, unlike everybody at every political news comedian you've ever seen. I write and research all my own stuff. So he doesn't want to mention that. And he's doing this thing where he makes it sound like, well, Lee Camp used to be at RT, so he's good at doing Kremlin propaganda. No, I never did. I never did Kremlin propaganda. Stood for my own, wrote all my own stuff. And the only reason I was at RT is because the only place you could actually be anti-war and anti-imperialist. Whereas this guy is at the Chelsea Clinton network, and his job is to lick the ass of empire. That's what he's doing right here. So then he goes off on Gray Zone, which is a good news outlet created by Max Blumenthal. He goes off on Ben Norton. He goes off on Danny Haiphong. He repeatedly, and I mentioned this earlier, he repeatedly talks about how these people are on Patreon, are on YouTube, are on Twitter, and how he contacted them because their goal is to try and I know I already mentioned this, try and get those platforms to cut us off, which they've largely already done, right? They've banned my Redacted Tonight videos, all 8 years worth, thousands of videos. They've banned everybody who was at RT, Chris Hedges' videos, Jesse Ventura's videos. They've shadow banned me on Facebook and Twitter, or suppressed me to some degree on Twitter. And now Patreon could be next, which is why I'm moving to locals. So I hope you'll join my locals page. But he's trying to get all of us canceled. These other guys many of them are on Patreon. He's trying to get them to get shut down. That's the real goal. I mean, this is basically like, I really don't want to call it journalism, but it's like writing articles that are not meant to be read. They're meant to pressure big tech to censor people. He doesn't actually, I don't think, care. I mean, he cares because he's trying to, be a bootlicker to get on MSNBC. But so he cares. But the outlet itself, Daily Beast, Chelsea Clinton, etc., they don't actually care how many views this gets. The goal of this is to dox us, and rather than give our home address, it's to give the platforms that we're working on, say that we are misinformation agents, and get those platforms to censor us. He's fighting hard for censorship. So let's see. And by the way, I'm almost done with this article. Then I want to get to one other thing that's happened to me recently. Sorry to make this episode about me, but this shit's kind of crazy. And also, it's not just about me. This is about showing how this propaganda works from someone who's inside it, who actually has it thrown at them. Because I think a lot of people might read this article and not understand how the propaganda works. So I think this is useful to break it down. So let's see here. He goes after Danny Haifa. Oh, he also goes after Jing Lee. I had her on Redacted Night once. She works at CGTN. Anyway, I'll wrap up this article because I don't want to take forever. And the other people could speak to how, if they wanted to, could speak to how false his shit is about them. I know Danny Haifa might be the only one who wrote an extensive article about how false it is and how much how much he ignored all of Danny Haifa's answers, which is why I didn't respond, because I knew he'd do that. Because they don't want to give. That's how they do this propaganda. They don't want to give anything that goes against, that refutes this conspiracy he's come up with about this. Again, pointing the wrong way, about this evil Sith Lord that's right over here, that he's made me look like. I got the evil face with the red filter that he put on us, which I guess is supposed to try and tell people we're communists or something. I don't know. But all right, this guy, enough on this true vulture, true sad sack of shit. And when I say vulture, I don't just mean like when they're graceful flying through the air. Vultures, many of them, or oftentimes, when they come across a dead animal that hasn't been picked apart yet, the way they get into the good stuff, the good meat, is this is why they have long necks. They stick their heads in the rectums, up into the ass, and start eating the inside like that. And that's what this guy is at the Daily Beast. He's a vulture, but I don't just mean like a vulture while it's like, soaring through the air. I mean a vulture like while it's got its head in the ass of a dead animal. That's this guy, Matthew, whatever the hell. And so it's like he's the vulture at that point when fully in the ass. And in this case, I guess it's Chelsea Clinton's ass, because she is the one that sits on the board that owns Daily Beast. By the way, Daily Beast did also almost get a journalist killed just recently. Gonzalo Lira, I think I have his name right. He is, I believe, Chilean. I'm certain he's Latin American, but I think Chilean, living in Ukraine, was doing a lot of reporting on how we were getting a false view of things here in the West. And as I've said again and again, you can be opposed to this war and still want the truth. So you should, if he's giving you the truth, you should still want to read his articles. But he was talking about how, he's on the ground. He's there in Ukraine, and he's not seeing many of the things that we're being told on our mainstream media. So he was reporting on that. Daily Beast did an article basically begging Ukrainian security to go after him. Now, keep in mind, there is a contingent of Nazis in the Ukrainian military, which I've talked about extensively. And also this guy, the Daily Beast vulture head up the rectum guy, he mentions the Azov battalion and the Nazis in the Ukrainian military. He mentions me talking about it, and he agrees there are Nazis in the Ukrainian military, but he says, but it's not that many. He does one of his hyperlinks. It's underlined. It's got to be true. It's got an underline. And he links to, I think, New York Times, and he says, well, there aren't that many Nazis. It's just a sampling of Nazis. So this guy literally defending Nazism, defending aligning with Nazis when our fucking own Secretary of Defense has said we're in a proxy war, which means we're arming these people, which means we're arming Nazis. This guy agrees with that. This Daily Beast dude agrees there's Nazis, agrees we're arming them, but I'm apparently the problem because I guess he thinks there's fewer Nazis than Scott Ritter, when I was interviewing him, said there were. You're teaming up with Nazis? You don't think you might be the problem, buddy? Anyway, what was that about? What was I about to say? So yeah, sack of shit. I'll wrap it up there. But these are the type of articles you can enjoy if you if you are anti-war, anti-imperialist, and a comedian. This is why I'm the most censored comedian in America. Is fucking for being anti-war, for being outwardly and truly anti-war. Like, that makes me the most censored comedian in America. How fucking sad is that? What kind of world is that? Like, fucking censor the people teaming up with the Nazis. Go after them. Jesus Christ. I mean, how backwards does this shit have to be for the guy who's anti-Nazi to be the bad guy? Okay, so this person who I'm going to block because they're lying about me. But anyway, I'll tell you what she said. She said, Lee Camp interviewed a convicted pedophile and didn't mention it. So what she's talking about is the Daily Beast article says that Scott Ritter was convicted. Scott Ritter is a former UN weapons inspector, and he was convicted of, according to the New York Times. I'm going to guess this is true, but New York Times, who knows? But he was convicted of, it said, whacking off on a webcam to someone he believed was 15, or someone who said they were 15, I guess. And so he was convicted of that, and I don't support that. That is wrong. Okay, folks, for those of you out there, don't do that. Don't whack off to a 15-year-old. But even if that's true, that doesn't make him a pedophile. That makes him a camera whacker offer. But besides that, I didn't know that when I interviewed him. But even besides that, I was interviewing him about what the fuck's going on in Ukraine, not about child video cam whack-offs. What are you fucking talking about? How many interviews does Mike Tyson do right now? And how often are they like, so just to be clear, you're a convicted rapist? I'd say 0. I've seen countless Mike Tyson interviews over the past 10 years, and never do they mention, hey, by the way, convicted rapist here. So anyway, my point is that maybe if the interview is about something that's unrelated and has nothing to do with that, it's kind of ridiculous to be like, hey, this guy once whacked off on a webcam. But anyway. So here's something else I wanted to talk about. By the way, please go over to leecamp.locals.com and become a member over there. You can join for free for a month using the promo code Keep Fighting, all caps. But okay, this next story is going to be rather short. But someone is trying to steal the Redacted brand, the Redacted Tonight brand. They're trying to basically feed off of the and I'm thankful for this, the love that a lot of people had for Redacted Tonight, the work that we did creating an awesome show that people liked. the brand of Redacted Tonight. And this YouTube show is not new. It's been around for at least a few years, but it is after Redacted Tonight started, at least a year or two after Redacted Tonight started. So they knew, if they just Googled Redacted, they would have found us. They knew what our show was. And now this show is being promoted on YouTube all the time. Like every time I log on to YouTube, it shows me this guy's shitty show. But I want to show you what this looks like. This is the same, almost the same font, right up here at the top. And almost the same coloring, except they added the red. And also the fact that half the word is redacted the same way we did. So they're using, and the same scribbled, black font. And it started at least a year, maybe more, after Redacted Tonight started. But hold on. You haven't heard the kicker as to who this is that's doing it. Who it is that is coasting on the success and fame and popularity of Redacted Tonight. And by the way, so this is a right-winger. I think he considers himself libertarian. But if you just saw a couple of the videos, you might think that it is some sort of continuation of Redacted Tonight without me as host, because many of them are titled like The Truth About Ukraine and stuff like that, because he's, Tucker Carlson has done some of this stuff. He's basically an anti-war, I don't know about anti-war, he's an isolationist. So he's opposed to some wars. So he's opposed to us being in a proxy war in Ukraine. So I think, I haven't studied all his videos, but I think it's like Tucker Carlson, who's also opposed to the war in Ukraine for the same reasons. They're isolationists largely. But anyway, but he's libertarian and, also has incredibly shitty views on other things, on like social stuff. And thank you, Kevin. Kevin says the fact that I'm systematically trolled is proof that I'm getting the truth out about what really matters. I think that's very true. But you haven't heard the kicker yet as to who this motherfucker is who's trying to steal the Redacted brand, which, by the way, I mentioned advertised a lot more now than it used to be. This show, because I never saw anything about this until recently, meaning either YouTube's changed its algorithm and is promoting it, or this guy is putting in a lot more money right now to create ads promoting this Redacted show. Probably, if that's true, because he knows Redacted Tonight is gone, and he's hoping to exploit some of the fans that want something to replace it. Anyway, wait till you hear who this is. All right, this is a clip of me from 2008 on Fox News. And if you haven't seen it, I hope you enjoy. Oh, hold on. Let me do it over and make sure the sound is working appropriately. Don't want to share it to you without sound accidentally. All right, here we go.
All right, Julia and Lee, we appreciate it. And I'm sure you guys are going to have a lot more jokes for the rest of the campaign here. They just keep coming.
What? Can I just ask a question?
Sure.
What is Fox News? It's just a parade of propaganda, isn't it? It's just a festival of ignorance. What? Why a million
Fox
people are
News?
dead in Iraq? Come on, this is ridiculous. What's the point of this? This is insane.
I love
people
Fox
at home,
News.
go outside. Go hug your
Lee,
children.
you should be more.
Well, Fox
you should
News
be
will
more
be-
worried.
Love your family.
And you get all the news
Hillary
at Fox. You
Clinton
get
is running,
all the news you
and-
can at Fox News. All right, thanks.
And
guys.
I think, okay.
All right, that's it.
There you go. Little Lee Camp, 2008. But you notice who the guy is sitting next to me in that clip? Who the guy is defending Fox News? That's the same motherfucker. Same asshole. Creating this stupid redacted show posting on the redacted branding. Hold on, I'll bring it up again.
Cover upping.
Same dude as was defending Fox News in that clip. He worked for Fox News for all those years, and now he's trying to steal my brand. How much things come full circle, don't they? Isn't that amazing? To see him again pop up is hilarious. 2008, I was in. By the way, that's the only time I'm ever on Fox News. I was talking about how if you're regular on these networks, then you are a shill for the American empire. And I was not a regular. I was invited on once, and they did not like what I had to say. Let's just say that, because I called them a parade of propaganda and a festival of ignorance on their own airwaves. And that clip went viral in a time when most TV clips were not online. TV clips were kind of just beginning to show up online on a regular basis. And that one went crazy viral, tens of millions of views. But he is the one, whatever his name is, something Morris, Clinton Morris. He was a Fox News host defending Fox News in 2008, saying, "Oh no, Fox News is great. You get tons of great news here at Fox News." And by the way, they actually, sadly, they cut off the end of the clip because he tries to defend it and he says, "Okay, that's it." And then he has to toss to the next segment, which literally he goes, "Okay, next segment. Moving on. Next segment. Did you ever wonder how Captain Kirk was able to score with so many women on Star Trek? Well, coming up next, we're going to tell you how he did that." I'm not kidding. That was the next segment. Verifying proof of exactly what I was saying, that it was a festival of ignorance and idiocy. So, yeah. Not allowed back after you say those things. But that shithead is now stealing the redacted brand, trying to coast on it. And yeah, this is the type of shit I have to deal with right now. Anyway, moving on. So if you ever see anyone promoting the show Redacted, just know it's a pile of shit and an ass clown. So, but if you want to support my stuff, leecamp.locals.com. I continue to be attacked. I continue to be the most censored comedian in America. And I hope you will see it as justified to become even just the bottom level donor, the patron at leecamp.locals.com. The bottom level is $5 a month, which is $1.25 a week. So if you feel I'm worth a half a cup of coffee, if you feel like you got $1.25 out of this episode, I hope you'll go to leecamp.locals.com and become a member. And like I said, you can also become a member for free without joining up at any level, and just check it out that way. All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Keep fighting.